Now, back to the interview from a few minutes ago with Barnes, Leslie, and Jimmy. The best of the Morning X. 99X.
Some of the photography was great, and some of the ass-kicking was even better. It must have taken you guys a while to choreograph those scenes, because it looked good. It looked really legit.
I appreciate it. And that's another thing we wanted to do, too, was just to make sure that the action had that old-fashioned feel to it, like old Clint Eastwood movies. And I know some of my Steve McQueen movies. I love those. With a contemporary twist. Andy Chang, who's a great fight coordinator, has been Jackie Chan's coordinator on a couple of his movies, said he wanted to combine Hong Kong style with South American Capoeira style with, according to Andy, like good old-fashioned American ass-kicking style.
There you go.
Cool.
And hence The Rock.
Yeah.
Crash?
Yeah,
Crash was waving over here with his Miami jersey.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about University of Miami later on. 91 national
baby.
championship team, baby. Yeah, go Canes. You see some of the movies coming up, Vin Diesel with all the action movies and things like that, and he started to become this big action icon now. You're next in line. Are you going to take it that way? Are you going to do more action movies? Is this somewhere you want to go and get away from the whole wrestling scene?
Well, I love wrestling because I grew up in the business. So, for example, like the Georgia Dome, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, hell yeah.
But then that's a great thing about wrestling for me is I could always go back and I could always have fun, and especially interaction with the live audience, with the fans, because I love that.
Yeah.
And that to me was the most fun I've ever had. The matches were great, and I love that physicality, but it's the interaction with the fans that I feed off of. And as far as for action, I love the action genre. I love kicking ass. I love that physicality. I also love comedy, so I'd like to do more comedy as well, and maybe even a broad comedy and just like throw myself out there. We were talking about that.
Nothing like The Rock kicking your ass while he's got a smile on his face.
I'm laughing at that.
They set you up. They set him up several times in the movie, I thought, and comedically, I thought you did a great job.
I appreciate it.
You fell right into it. I love the part where you get cut on you were cut up or shot or whatever, and you have to pull your shirt off in the jungle.
Yeah.
I love that. It's like, better take the shirt off.
Although
I'm The Rock.
We were commenting on how, like, for the first 35 minutes in the Amazon jungle, you still had your sport coat on.
Whole suit on, yeah. Whole suit.
Very James Bondish.
Yeah.
Because Bond, he's always wearing a tuxedo.
In the Amazon, yeah.
A couple wrestling questions. First of all, you look a lot trimmer right now than wrestling weight. How much weight have you lost? Because I know that you mentioned that you had to trim down a little bit for the Walking Tall movie.
Right.
What are your stats now versus what you normally wrestle?
I'm about 240 now, and usually my wrestling weight is probably around 250.
What were you in the rundown?
About 10 pounds heavier.
10 pounds heavier?
Yeah.
And when you first got to WWF at the time, who were a couple of guys that, man, you just just shooting for a second? Who were some of the guys that you really did not get along with, that you really bumped heads with, that maybe later you developed a friendship with, but at first it was not good,
easy, hands down, Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin, yeah.
Was there some territoriality, you think?
No, it wasn't. No, certainly wasn't that, because I wasn't anything.
Not on your part. Did he feel a threat?
No, he didn't feel threatened at all, because he was, at that time, he was becoming the guy who he became, and I was like nobody anyway. So there was not a threat. It was just like personality conflicts, and it was really interesting back then. And we laugh and joke about it now. That guy's one of my best friends.
Is he?
Yeah, really solid guy and very supportive, and I love the guy to death now, but back then we were just like
any matches that you can recall that were a little too stiff, that afterwards you had to have a talk with the guy and like, man, you got to hold back a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you this right now because he's from here. Anything with Bill Goldberg, you can count on that.
Yeah. He's stiff, is he?
He's my man. I hope he's listening.
He
listens,
call him up.
Yeah. Let me see if I've got his
He lives out in the
number
flipping
right
woods.
here.
I know he does. With all the animals. He's
Kyle
crazy.
It looks like
I think we had
Waco
his
out in his
number.
house.
All right.
With all the Rottweilers running around with steaks. He's just tossing steaks to him.
Being like third generation wrestler, because your dad and your grandfather, I mean, you grew up like, well, how old were you when you went to your first wrestling match?
I was in the womb.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
You were just like 3 weeks old, and there you were.
Right.
What's that like growing up in a family of wrestlers? I mean, did you guys, like, right after dinner, you just jump into a big pile in the living room, start kicking each other's ass?
Yeah, and then the men jumped in.
And then the guys jump in, yeah.
How old were you when you first, your first rivalry with Stone Cold Steve Austin? You were like very young, weren't
I was 26.
I thought you were a lot younger than that.
No, 26. Or
Wow.
26 or 25, something like that.
Now you're
Doll number 9.
you've been married to your wife, Danny, for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And what's
37 years.
unusual? 37
No, I'm
years.
kidding.
Unbelievable, Rock. You look phenomenal.
Thank you.
And she's like some big banking executive or something like that.
She was the associate vice president for Merrill Lynch for a number of years, and now she just moved off and she runs her own hedge fund company now. So thank God somebody's smart.
I mean, how does a professional wrestler get hooked up with the vice president of Merrill Lynch? And how does
back then when we met, I was 18, 18 and a punk. Thought I knew everything, knew not a damn thing, and she was just graduating from college, and she had her stuff together.
She's older than you.
Yeah, she's older than me. She had everything together, and I was like, damn, this is great.
And you, how many kids do you guys have?
One. I was gonna say a joke, but no, yeah, one.
that I know?
Yeah, one, baby.
More of this interview you don't want to miss is back in minutes on the best of the morning X 99X.